Police in Mexico found 53 asylum seekers hidden in a house in Ciudad Juarez. The representative of human rights in Russia, Tatyana Moskalvoka, denounced the discrimination and human rights violations against Russians around the world. The Chinese Aviation Authority confirmed a plane crash of the Eastern Airlines company. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor, Diego Martin, from the Tosar Studios in Havana. We begin with the news. Police in Mexico found 53 asylum seekers hidden in a house in Ciudad Juarez, a border city with the state of Texas. The group was trying to reach the United States. The group was abandoned in the building without food or water. 52 of them were from Guatemala and one from Ecuador. There were 45 men, 5 women, and 3 minors. The asylum seekers remained in Ciudad Juarez after being offered to cross to the United States in exchange for money. The Secretariat of Public Safety transferred the rescued people to a local gymnasium as set up as a shelter for people who try to cross the border. Moving to Colombia, violent acts and a strong repression by the security forces have been reported in the municipality of Volterra and the northern department of Santander. Authorities confirmed at least 1 person died and other 9 resulted injured. An apparent attempt of territory seizure, described by the highest military authorities in Colombia as an assault on an army fort, led to a violent operation joined by the mobile anti-riot squad El Ismad. The commander of the 2nd Division of the National Army, Major General Omar Esteban Sepulveda, linked the events to irregular armed groups.
As commander of the 2nd Division of the National Army, I would like to inform you that since yesterday, March 19, in the municipality of Tarra, more specifically in the military base of La Esperanza, which is one of the strategic bases that the 2nd Division has with a specific command north of Santander to carry out in-depth operation against the scourge of drug trafficking and against the bandits in this locality, there was an assault by approximately 200 civilians, many of them Venezuelan citizens, who tried to enter through the door to our military base of La Esperanza. The civilians threw improvised explosive devices, threw a number of Molotov bombs, with the only purpose of frequently attacking the soldiers of our fatherland who were operating in the area. The integrity of 3 of our men was affected with serious wounds that had been treated by our combat nurses.
According to the military authority deployed in the area, the reincident organized armed groups attacked the base, making it necessary to request support. Troops from the Mobile Anti-Disturbances Squad from the Colombian National Police arrived in the municipality of Volterra in the northern department of Santander to work in coordination with soldiers and reinforce the military operations in the area. According to local media, the situation in El Tarra left 17 people injured and 1 dead. Social leaders demanded the presence of humanitarian organizations to protect the right of the population. Regarding the situation in the department of Norte de Santander, the mayor of the Colombian municipality of El Tarra referred in particular to the humanitarian situation.
I strongly reject the events that have been taking place in our municipality, especially yesterday, which resulted in 17 people injured and 1 dead, involving the Venezuelan population, a vulnerable population that is sitting in our municipality of Tarra, and that many of them lack the need for housing, employment, education, and health. I call on the community and the department as well as the national authorities to please accompany us with humanitarian assistance for this population, as well as the request for Human Rights Commission to come to the territory and carry out the relevant verification of what may be occurring in the confrontation between this population and the security forces. I also call on the armed actors to please protect the civilian population from the conflict and avoid more victims, especially children, young adults, and vulnerable people who do not have to bear the consequences of this situation. I make this urgent appeal to all the authorities to please accompany us in this territory and in this municipality where we are amid a humanitarian crisis.
In Brazil, Judge Alexandre de Moraes of the Supreme Federal Court announced on Sunday his decision to reverse the ruling to block the use of Telegram in the South American country. abolishing the suspension order and granting 24 hours to comply with the determinations established for its release. The information had been disseminated by several digital portals, where they also highlighted that de Moraes ordered on Friday that the digital platforms and providers of the Mega Red Internet block the use of the application. The award had been issued for failing to comply with court orders, among the main ones the restriction of accounts that had spread disinformation. In response to the magistrate's decision, Telegram's founder, Russian Pavel Durov, apologized and was quick to explain that the court decision was due to a matter of miscommunication. And at least 6 people died in a favela in Rio de Janeiro on Sunday after a police operation. The operation, according to the police, concluded with 4 alleged criminals arrested and 6 reportedly killed. They also report the confiscation of weapons, cars, and drugs in the area known as Chapadao, a group of favelas located in the north of Rio de Janeiro. The agents broke into a party that was taking place in the middle of a square. Major Ivan Blas, spokesman for the militarized police, admitted that the clashes began in the middle of a party where some of the alleged wanted criminals were present. Peruvian President Pedro Castillo expressed his support for actions that contribute to consolidate the second agrarian reform contained in the main objective of the declaration of emergency in the sector, and which will have the aim of promoting the development of cooperatives and agrarian companies. The second agrarian reform will also consist in promoting the advancement of agriculture with technical and financial support and irrigation infrastructure. The president expressed the importance of a comprehensive support for rural workers. The emergency was decreed as a result of the negative effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the increase in the international prices of agricultural inputs, aggravated by international conflict. We're going to take a short break now. Please join us again after this. Hi, and welcome back to From the South. The representative of human rights in Russia, Tatiana Moskalvoka, denounced the discrimination and human rights violations against Russians around the world. The Russian Federation official rejected these actions in the framework of the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, celebrated on March 21st. She described the position taken by several countries towards Moscow as a new Holocaust. Moskalvoka also said there are even nations cutting cultural ties with Moscow, expelling Russian youth from educational institutions abroad, forbidding them to enter educational institutions in other countries as well. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky once again challenged the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, by holding it directly responsible for the conflict, and once again questions the organization's resolve vis-à-vis Russia. During an interview with CNN, the president claimed that NATO could have prevented the conflict, which already has killed more than 900 civilians, if NATO had accepted his country as a member from the beginning. Zelensky said he would have liked to have received guarantees for his country, and reiterated that direct membership in the alliance could have prevented the confrontations, accused the organization's top leadership of not even having the courage to say openly that his country would never join the alliance. So far, the military bloc had publicly recognized Ukraine as a special partner, a stance that Zelensky revealed to be completely different in private. Early Monday morning in Ukraine, Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk told several national and international media that Kiev will not hand over Mariupol, a major port city in the southeast of the country, which is currently besieged by heavy fighting. According to the senior official, Russian forces had asked the Ukrainian troops deployed in the strategic port to lay down their arms and leave the city through humanitarian corridors, but the government of President Volodymyr Zelensky rejected Moscow's proposal. Vereshchuk added that her government would not talk of surrender or laying down arms, and described the offer by Russian forces as blackmail and manipulation, which her government had not even considered for a second. The head of Russia's National Defense Management Center, General Mikhail Mizintsev, reported Sunday in Moscow that Ukrainian neo-Nazis are killing between 80 and 235 citizens daily in Mariupol, southeastern Ukraine. The senior officer emphasized that in the absence of further support from Kiev and the steady advance of the people's militias with the support of the Russian army, the neo-Nazis have deployed massive terror operations on the port city's civilian population. Mizintsev also said that daily executions of citizens sometimes exceeded the 200 fatalities in a single day, all of them innocent civilians. He also informed that more than 59,000 Ukrainian citizens and 139 foreigners managed to leave the city under the protection of the Russian military forces. Now, concerning the current updates of the war situation in Ukraine, it appears that country's neutral status and its non-adhesion to NATO are the most relevant factors of the negotiations between both countries.
Greetings and thanks for the contact. The neutral status of Ukraine and its non-adhesion to NATO appear today as the most important advancement in the negotiations between Kremlin and Kiev to put an end to the bilateral conflict, which will see another day of talks today online, as has happened before. However, the Russian presidential advisor Vladimir Medinsky, who is heading the negotiation team, stressed that there are still nuances in matters of agreement related to guarantees of security for Ukraine apart from the existing ones in case it does not enter NATO. Representatives of both countries expressed last week that a Swedish-like agreement or an Australian-like of the demilitarized state could become a likely condition for Kiev, and in that sense Medinsky stressed that Moscow conditions are still the same because the region requires a peaceful, free, independent, and neutral Ukraine, and not a member of military blocs or NATO. A friendly nation to Russia to develop mutual relations in order to build a similar future. He also pointed out that Moscow is against a Ukraine becoming a springboard for military or economic attacks against Russia. On the other hand, the advisor to the head of the Ukrainian president's office, Mikhail Podolyak, who is in charge of the negotiations, made it clear that there's still a lot to be discussed and decided on the peace between the parties and the future of bilateral relations. He explained that the main demands of the Ukrainian side are a ceasefire, the troops withdrawal, and a political settlement on the disputed territories. Earlier, the Kiev representatives said that both delegations maintained their positions and that reaching an agreement could take several days. Likewise, the Ukrainian president, in his back and forth of criteria and requests for military aid to the West, returned to the rhetoric that he's willing to negotiate with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, as the only way to put an end to the conflict between the two nations. However, last Thursday, the secretary of the Russian Security Council, Nikolai Patrushev, warned about the delay of the talks by the Ukrainian side in a telephone conversation with the National Security Advisor of the U.S. President, Jake Sullivan. The Russian side drew attention to the inadmissibility of the Ukrainian authorities' attempts to prolong the consultation process following instructions from abroad. We will follow the course of this situation, and now we return the signal.
We have more news coming up after a final short break. Please stay with us. Hi and welcome back. The Chinese Aviation Authority confirmed a plane crash of the Eastern Airlines company, as reported by our correspondent in Beijing moments ago. The governmental office reported that 123 passengers and 9 new crew members were on board. The fire in the area has not yet been controlled. The aircraft is said to have taken off at 1:15 p.m. local time, and according to the air surveillance, the tracking ended short of an hour at 2022 local time, when it registered an altitude of 3,225 feet and a speed of 376 knots. So far, there is no more official information about possible victims or the causes of the accident. The crashed plane, a Boeing 737-800, was only 6 years old in fabrication. According to the Air Safety Network, the last fatal plane crash in China was in 2010, when 44 of the 96 people on board a Henan Airlines Embraer E190 regional jetliner died after it crashed on approach to Yichun Airport. At least 5 people are dead and dozens more are believed missing after a bulk carrier crashed into a small ferry in a river near Bangladesh's capital. Police said nearly 24 people managed to swim ashore after the inland cargo carrier ran over the ferry southeast of Dhaka. Footage of the sinking aired by local media showed people shouting in alarm as a cargo vessel collided with the ferry and jumping into the polluted waterway as the boat quickly sank. According to a police inspector, the ferry was believed to be carrying more than 60 passengers. Another ferry sank in Dhaka last June after a collision with another vessel, killing at least 32 people.
We heard from survivors there were some 60 to 70 passengers on board. Some 5-6 people managed to swim to this side of the river, and another 15 to 20 managed to get across to the other side. It was a huge cargo ship that hit the ferry from the rear. The ferry then lost control and sank.
I don't have any words to describe it. Before I understood anything, I was deep in the water, underneath the big vessel. Only Allah knows how I managed to survive. All of my belongings are lost.
Canadian government representatives and experts said the railroad strike declared on Monday morning by the country's second-largest railway operator has come at one of the worst moments of the national economy and could cause irreversible damage. CP rail trains are currently grounded all over the country, and thousands of workers are already marching in picket lines since Sunday. The strike involves more than 3,000 engineers, conductors, and other employees. A massive layoff triggered the protest, but the conflict began months before when the workers introduced a 26-demand labor plan, including wage and union improvements. The United Nations recalled on Monday that Western Sahara conflict must be resolved with a full commitment of the parties to the political process facilitated by the UN in the first official reaction to the Spanish government's announcement of backing the Moroccan autonomy plan. The United Nations spokesman Stéphane Dujarric further urged all stakeholders to support the efforts of the personal envoy for the Sahara, Staffan de Mistura, aimed at resuming the political process of negotiation between the parties to the conflict. Stefan reiterated the importance of maintaining the full commitment of the parties to the political process eased by the United Nations in line with Resolution 2602, approved in 2021. This resolution advocated for a realistic, viable, lasting solution acceptable to the parties and based on compromise, and that provides for the self-determination of the people of Western Sahara in accordance with the principles of the UN Charter. A special envoy from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations met with Myanmar's junta chief on Monday in the regional bloc's latest attempt to jumpstart dialogue between the military and opponents of its coup. ASEAN has led stalled diplomatic efforts to end the chaos unleashed by last year's putsch, which ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's government and sparked mass protests. Cambodian Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn and Myanmar's junta chief discussed the situation of protests and violence, as well as humanitarian cooperation. The envoy's visit aimed at encouraging political consultations with all parties concerned. According to a local monitoring group, more than 1,000 people have been killed and over 12,000 arrested in a military crackdown since the coup. Japan's Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi met with his United Arab Emirates counterpart in a bid to ask the Arab nation to pump more oil to calm markets rocked by Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. The request by Japan's foreign minister came during meetings with Emirati officials, which coincided with a visit by Germany's economy minister. Hayashi asked the UAE to contribute to the stabilization of the international oil market by supplying a greater amount of oil, securing spare productive capacity as a leading member of Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. Other high government officials had visited Saudi Arabia in an attempt to ease prices over $100 a barrel and secure non-Russian supplies. There was no promise of more production from the UAE, which has stressed its alignment with the OPEC oil alliance that includes Russia. Severe storms hit the North Island of New Zealand on Sunday night, leaving 3 people dead and 2 missing after the sinking of a fishing boat. 2 Air Force airplanes and a naval vessel rescued 5 people in the midst of heavy rains, floods, road closures, and landslides. The Weather Service warns that 6 storms are heading towards the Auckland area, the country's largest city. And we've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at Tell Us Our English. You can also join us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Tell Us Our English, I'm Diego Martin. Thanks for watching.
It is our duty